Good afternoon. Thank you for joining and welcome to our Smiley Talk on how to love our oceans. So I've got three fantastic speakers with me today, Francesca, Justin and Zerlene. And over the next hour, we're going to be speaking about how best to protect our oceans, why they're so important to our lives, and also speaking a bit about the people and the organisations who are already doing great work in marine conservation. Smiley Movement is running this talk. We're a not-for-profit sponsored by the original Smiley brand, and everything we do has the aim of inspiring people to drive positive change in the world. All our work aligns with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and this talk very much fits in with UN Goal 13 and 14, which is life below water and climate action. It's also being run, obviously, during COP26, the climate change conference in Glasgow, so a topical talk. We're going to have some introductions from our speakers shortly, and then we're going to go into a panel discussion talking about the oceans and protecting them. But if you do have any questions, just pop them wherever you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You can put them in the comments and we will get to them near the end of the hour. So we're going to have some introductions from our speakers. I'm going to go to them separately and let them introduce themselves. So Francesca, I'm going to go to you first because you're first on my screen. Did you just want to introduce yourself and tell us about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Amy. My name is Francesca Trotman. I'm the managing director and founder of a marine conservation nonprofit called Love the Oceans. We're a marine conservation organisation working in Mozambique. We're working to establish a community-led marine protected area. And that looks like doing lots of different areas of research and community outreach. We take a really holistic approach to conservation. So we do fisheries research, humpback whales, coral reefs, ocean trash, marine megafauna, and turtles. And we teach basic marine resource management to 10 to 13-year-olds, swimming to 4 to 18-year-olds to remove the fear of the ocean. We have sustainability workshops with active fishermen and community members. We have a sustainable fishing project which launched last year. We have an alternative livelihoods project identifying alternative livelihoods to fishing, alleviating pressure on the ocean. And we've also just launched our women's health project. So lots of different areas. My background myself, I'm a marine biologist by training, and I started the organisation while I was at university. But we've since grown very rapidly. So Pascal Newmasua, our community outreach manager, and myself are full-time staff members, but we're a micro charity, so we're very, very small. But we do lots of different areas. But yeah, that's me.
Amazing, very busy. Justin, I'll come to you next. Do you want to tell us a bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Justin Moran. I'm the co-founder of The Hidden Sea. The Hidden Sea is a no-nonsense premium wine brand. At The Hidden Sea, we have a very clear purpose, one wine, one mission, to remove plastic from the world's ocean. And we have a very clear and quantifiable promise. But every time someone consumes just one bottle of The Hidden Sea, we remove the equivalent of 10 single-use plastic bottles out of our ocean.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And Zerlene, coming to you last, do you want to tell us a bit about who you are and the work you do?
Hi, thank you, Amy. So my name is Charlene Peter, from a lovely island in the Caribbean, Dutch Caribbean island called Curaçao. And I live, I think, for 6 years now already in London. I'm an active volunteer at the Marine Conservation Society in London. And we do beach cleaning, talking to the kids at schools, clubs, you name it. And recently, during the pandemic, I started with my own business as well, sustainable brand called Onada.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I'm sure we'll hear more about that in a bit. So I thought a good place to start off would be, the talk is called How to Love Our Oceans. So I was going to ask the question, when did you first fall in love with the ocean? Now, that may be when you realized there was an issue and you wanted to do something about it, or it might be from a young age, you've always loved the ocean, but a little bit of story sharing to begin with. Justin, I'm going to come to you first. Did you want to start? Where did that passion for looking after our oceans first begin?
Yeah, well, the passion for the ocean come from a very young age. Being an Aussie, we grow up on the coast, And that went into my adult life, where our vineyards lie today in the southern part of South Australia, all along the South Australian coast. So growing up in the ocean, you get to respect it. And then as you start to travel, as you develop and get older in life, you start to realize that the rest of the world doesn't look like the southern part of South Australia. And over the last 20 years, I've seen the ocean seriously be polluted, majority by plastic. But really, it's four words. It's the air we breathe. The ocean, as we're probably all aware, produces half the oxygen we breathe and absorbs over 50 times the carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. So it was a really simple thing for me. There's so many issues regarding climate change and so on, and I'm not a scientist. So it was very simplistic for me, seeing plastic pollution in places I visited in my early 20s. Later in life, seeing plastic pollution later in life, where places I went in my early 20s wasn't there. I knew I had to be a part of the solution and not the problem. And I went on a journey approximately about 10 years ago of working on and working with lots of NGOs in the ocean health space until I started to use my commerce to make a tangible difference on the ocean. I have a really simple philosophy. If you've got the ability in life, you certainly have the responsibility to do right.
It's a good motto. If you have the ability, you have the responsibility. It's easy to remember because of the rhyming. That's really interesting. And I think what you said about the plastic pollution, it's something I've heard, and just anecdotally in my friendship circles, that it really is something that makes people realize when they go to the beach and they see it, it's sort of something clicks in their brain because you can visually see the damage. And sometimes when you can see something,
Amy, the click, there's an exact day that it clicked in my mind. Being in the ocean, myself, a surfer, and my business partner, a paddleboarder, ocean paddleboarder. There's a specific day. Our brand's always been linked to a higher purpose, and it's been linked to the ocean since the beginning of time, and that's another story. But we'd always been a part of ocean health with the Hidden Sea. But I was in an island called Phu Quoc in Vietnam, doing a wine tasting of all things, and I went out like I always do. As soon as I get in a hotel, straight to the ocean, and I was swimming in plastic. I thought it was sea life, and I kept picking up. I thought, what the hell is it? Is it jellyfish? And I came back and I said, Rich, I got on the phone and I said, we've got to do something this. And we went on a quest early in 2019, and we spoke and had conversations with all the big NGOs, and for that matter, companies collecting plastic out of the ocean who aren't NGOs, to find out who are the leaders in the space, and then link our brand to that and give consumers a tangible option when they're in when they purchase products that they can make a difference on the ocean.
Yeah, definitely. And Francesca, I'll come to you next. So you built a charity based around loving the oceans. I mean, your charity literally is called Love the Oceans. So where did that passion and love start for you?
I mean, like, how far back do you want to go?
And then you can remember.
Like, I'd always been one of those kids that like jumped in the deep end of the pool, and mum and dad weren't ecstatic about it when I was like 3 or 4 years old doing that. But I think probably like the big kind of turning point was when I was 8. My mum took me to the London Aquarium for my 8th birthday, and they had, I think it was raggy tooth sharks at the time. And there was a diver who was cleaning the tank, which I thought was probably the coolest job ever. And he was swimming with the sharks, cleaning the tank. And he saw me like I was this 8-year-old little freak that was like pressed up against the shark tank. And he like was cleaning the tank, and raggies shed their teeth like loads. And he picked up one of the teeth that was just on the bottom in the sand and gave it to me. And I kept it in a box for about 5 years. So that was like my big indicator that I really liked the oceans. And then I learned to dive when I was 13, and then that was pretty much it for me.
You kept a tooth for 5 years. Do you still have the tooth now?
I think like probably like in the boxes of like my childhood stuff, I feel like it's definitely in there. But yeah, I'll be forever thankful to that random dude that was cleaning that tank.
Amazing. And Zerlene, so you obviously dedicate a lot of your time to volunteering with the Marine Conservation Society, like you said. Where did that start, and why did you decide to do that?
I think coming from the Caribbean, everything happens at the ocean. You know, we celebrate birthdays. We just hang out at the beach. It's just a normal weekend place where you go. And when I came to UK or even went to the Netherlands, it felt different. But then when I go back home, everywhere people can find me at the beach. People can find me at the ocean. And it wasn't only for any celebration. It became something that I think it started with just feeling good, and then you know, just calm being at the ocean. There was a different connection with that. And when I came back to UK, I started to search how I can help, because obviously you can see everywhere. If you see a beautiful picture online, you can see you don't see the plastic, what we're talking about. You just see the beach, you see people searching, people having fun at the beach, but underneath all that, a lot is happening. And when I started diving, I noticed it's not as colorful as the pictures. It's not, it's all just from a certain place. It's not really what's there at the moment. And I wanted to be part of that. I wanted to be a person that just volunteered. Doesn't even matter, because next to my full-time job, I just volunteer. I do it after work. I do it during the weekends. And people then tend to ask, but how do you mean you clean the beaches? Yes, I just go to the beaches and you just clean up the mess. You just clean up, and you try then to, it's an awareness, really. Try then to let others know it's much more than the beach. We need to protect it. And I was quite very active before the pandemic. And it's sometimes you really can explain it, but it's a connection that, and it's sad to see it going backwards. So I guess, the click, what the other mentions as well. The click for me was when I started diving, when I saw it for myself. That was really the click, and I was like, you know what? I'm not even gonna eat fish anymore. So I'm vegetarian now. So I changed. It was I saw all the fishes as family. They're like family down there, having their place. They fight with each other. You know, it became personal. It became personal. Yeah.
And something you've touched on there, which I think would be good to go onto next, is what are the biggest threats to our oceans, and why does that impact our lives? So we want to focus on solutions, and we want to discuss that and what's being done. But I think it would be good to sort of address the issue and go back to basics to talk about what are the biggest threats to our oceans, and how does that impact our lives? So Francesca, maybe I'll come to you first. I know this is something you've spoken a lot about, but for people who just sort of going back to basics, want to know why should I care? What would you say to them?
Oh, right, that's two big questions. Why?
Let's focus on the threats.
You attack one and I'll try and back you up.
Well, like climate change is arguably the largest thing that anyone is fighting at the moment, because like, yes, all the other issues, overfishing is a massive issue, plastic pollution, massive issue. All of those things are gigantic issues, but obviously if there's not a climate to regulate the ocean in the first place, then we can't sort the other issues out. And I think like we have a habit of oversimplifying environmental problems so that we can understand it better. And there are so many massive issues that we're facing as a global population. So I think it's difficult just to name like one or two big problems. Like there are, it's multifaceted. There are so many different issues, environmental issues going on at the moment, and we have to be taking like a holistic approach to these kind of things. Why people should care. So, I mean, 3 billion people in the world rely on fish as a protein source. So like those people are absolutely like dependent on the ocean to survive. And then you've got a whole other sector, like economies depending on the ocean for tourism. Like so many people are employed in the fishery sector or tourism sector. Like that's a massive part of it. You look at Australia and the Great Barrier Reef and how important that is for the economy. And you also look at like what's now happening in the ocean as a result of climate change, with ocean acidification and ocean warming. Those coral reefs now are dying off, and that has a humongous effect on the ocean in general, because the coral reefs are essentially the rainforests of the ocean. So not only does it affect like the actual chemistry of the ocean, so many different fish species, commercially important fish species as well, rely on the ocean, rely on the coral reefs as a nursery ground. And so those coral reefs die off, and we as a result have what we call a trophic cascade, which is a breakdown of the ecosystem essentially through the loss of different species. And once you have collapsed commercial species, you have like mass starvation around the world, and it's all pretty doom and gloom. Like I think a lot of us know about this kind of thing, so I'm not going to go too deep down the doom and gloom road. But I think now, especially with COP26 and all the media around that, I think people are becoming more aware of the fact that we need to act now, like right now, and we don't have the luxury. There was a new report released, I think it was literally this morning, that said that we're going to exceed the 1.5 degrees Celsius within the century, which basically means the end of civilization as we know it, if we don't change our ways. So it's all coming to a head now, and we all need to be acting right now, whether we rely on the sea as a protein source, whether we rely on it as a financial source of income. Our country or our economy that we live in relies on it as a main source of income or big source of income. It also, like, you've got like whales and blue carbon, and like so much of like mangroves and stuff are so responsible for carbon sequestering and like maintaining climate as well. You've got like plankton in the ocean. They're responsible for over half the oxygen and over half the breaths we breathe. And like, I'm sure a lot of people watching this have been in the ocean leisurely, like enjoying swimming in the ocean. So like, if you like eating fish, if you like breathing, if you like having fun in the ocean, like that's the reasons that we should be caring about this environment. And if we don't start caring right now, we are dooming ourselves.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Justin. I was going to say, it is overwhelming when you think of all the issues, but also important to know. Was that something you were going to add on?
No, I was just going to say what Francesca said. I think it's really, really important to simplify the issues. If the ocean dies, forget about the economy, we die. You know, it's so important. It's that simple. And the reason I simplify it, because people are too busy to concern. And there's a question saying, does people who don't live by the sea care about the ocean? Well, the ocean is so important for our well-being, and I think we need to keep it really that simple. A dead ocean, or an unhealthy ocean, and it goes back to climate change. And I've had this philosophy for the whole debate, you know. And I didn't go to COP26 this year, but I've been to several. And I'm frustrated at a lot of NGOs and a lot of governments. And again, I'm listening to all the rhetoric. There's 400 private jets fly in to talk about climate change, fly down a private jet. That to me is an oxymoron. That to me is not change. That to me, getting together seems completely, as I said, it's an oxymoron. To keep it really, really, really simple, right? The way we're living is unsustainable. Don't worry about climate change. There's people who don't believe in climate change, and we've been trying to convince them climate change is real, and they're trying to claim it's not real. And the period we're measuring climate is not since the beginning of time, or not even since the beginning of human civilization. So in my view, let's forget about that argument. The way we're living is unsustainable. The resources we're using for energy are going to run out. Don't we need another solution? Why can't we keep it that simple? We're going to run out of those. Forget about the pollution, right? Side of it, but we're going to run out. It's unsustainable. And then to follow on to your question before, Amy, this fallacy about recycling, I'm talking about plastic. Since the 50s, there's been over 8 billion tons of plastic produced. I guarantee we all think in the first world that we're doing the right thing because we're dumping our plastic bottles and rubbish in the plastic container and wheeling it out. Well, the truth is only 9% of that plastic's been recycled. 11 or 12% roughly have been burned off into the atmosphere. So there's approximately 80% of that plastic in landfills or in our environment. 1 billion plastic bottles enter our ocean every minute. And one of the scariest things I ever came across, which got everybody who thought I was a bit crazy when I was on this journey 10 years ago about protecting the ocean, got them over the line, whether it's commercially or really close to me. The WWF reports that we're all consuming 1 credit card's worth of microplastics a week. And as a co-founder of a premium wine brand, I knew I had to be raising awareness, but not just for raising awareness. The awareness is everywhere in the first world, but also being a part of the problem. Being part of the solution, not the problem.
Which is we want to focus on the solutions, but I do think addressing these issues and understanding why it's so important is a good starter point. But in terms of the work that you three are doing to support marine conservation. Now, Zerlene, you are a volunteer with the Marine Conservation Society. You, as you've said, take it upon yourself to go and after work clean up the beaches. Do you want to talk a bit more about your work and the volunteering work you do and how it helps and the impact it has?
Yes. So cleaning the beaches, literally what it is clean up the beaches. And sometimes, for example, I'm just mentioning, for example, Brighton. When you go there, you don't really see the plastic. I want people to understand that. And like the other members were mentioning as well, you don't see it. It's the tiny bits that are there, not really visible for if you're just standing and taking a picture or you go into the beach. Bringing awareness and for people to understand that other part of the world, we have just one ocean. They need to understand that. That's point blank. And so if other part of the world, if they're there polluting the ocean, let's just say it as it is, it might end up at Brighton. It just might end up there. So here we can say, no, but I'm not the one doing it. Whose fault is it? If you go there and you see it for yourself, just small plastic, just small, all of them, collect them all, and it can be something. It will be something. And for people to understand, when we go when I go, for example, to the kids, we talk to them at schools, you will show them that. They will try to understand. They will ask you questions. We try to learn them, and hopefully they will then talk to their parents. So can you say that's the trick? Maybe it is. We're all older now, so let's talk with the younger ones that are coming. We will talk to them at the school. They will tell their parents, and hopefully at home they can then start with recycling, putting plastic here, telling mom, dad, I've learned that at school this, or I've learned it's better to do this, and then to make a better decision coming forward. For the ones that are eating fish, which is fine as well, we have on the website of Marine Conservation Society, they have the Good Fish Guide, which they're updating frequently. With sustainable fish guide. So literally when someone goes to the supermarket and where you can see that as well. So to make a better choices. But I think it's the education. I mean, we are already where we are. So basically, then we need to change our mindset, bring the awareness, and for others to really understand how it actually is, because people can do as if I'm not the one polluting. Literally, they're not the one going to the ocean and throwing the plastic bottle or whatever, but it ends up there. So, I mean, yeah.
I think what you said about the microplastics is really interesting. If you look at the ocean, if you look at a beach, you might not see the plastic.
You don't see it. Yes.
Yeah.
You don't see it. And for Great Bridges cleanups, when we sort, and that's the thing. If we just, if I do this, if you just look at a small portion of the stones, because we don't really have sand beaches at Brighton. So if you look at the stones, you do see the stone. Next to it, there's plastic. So basically, you don't really see the difference. And I think people need to understand that part, that what we see is not really what we see. There's more to that. And more to that is the plastic. And yeah.
And
I'd be interested to understand on that point regards to where the plastic pollution is coming from. You may be aware that there's been a study by the ocean cleanup guys that 80% of the ocean's plastic pollution is coming from 1,000 rivers, 80% of it, which sounds like a lot, but it's only 1% of the world's rivers. A lot of those are coming out of parts of southern parts of Europe and Africa and Southeast Asia. But Francesca, you're working down in Africa. I'd be interested to see how you're trying to overcome stopping the plastic getting into those riverways. I know it's very difficult. You've got a lot of experience there, but I just found interested to understand that if we stop those 1,000 rivers plastic, there's things like interceptors and so on. It wouldn't get in our ocean. Would have healthier oceans. Are you doing anything down there in Africa?
Yeah, so we're actually not based near a river at all.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. We're quite far away from rivers, but it's actually one of the projects that I was talking with a friend about today. So we do beach cleans where we are. Like, obviously, we're not exempt from the millions of pieces of plastic that are obviously washing up on shores all over the planet. We're on the edge of the Indian Ocean garbage patch, which is 5 million kilometers squared of trash, and it's excessive all the time, which is no secret. Everyone knows that. So we do like initial beach cleans, which is just like literally collecting the trash off the shore and logging what we're collecting, the types of different plastic that we have. And then you've obviously, for us, like there's no recycling units. There's nothing that you can do with that trash once it's collected in terms of like government bodies and things like that. So you've got the question of what you do with that trash when it's collected, and where that goes. And like historically in our area, so before plastic was introduced, all the kind of wrapping was organic, so you could burn it and it wouldn't be that bad for the environment. But now with plastic, it's still being burnt, which is obviously creating a different environmental problem in terms of releasing toxins and things like that. And so we've started what we call an eco brick project. So we take the trash, we wash it up, we clean it, and we pack it into 2-litre bottles that are thrown out by resorts in our area. It meets a minimum weight. They're sealed bottles, and they form like literally bricks that are then used in local construction projects. Yeah, so that's like, it's a very basic way of doing it. And I think with plastics, like, there needs to be better ways to long-term reuse and upcycle these plastics, because for us, like, yes, constructing that wall is great, but in like 20 years when that wall's torn down, what happens to that plastic? Like, it's still there. And that's the thing with plastic, like every single thing, like all the nappies that all of us on this call right now were wearing when we were babies are still in existence right now, somewhere, probably in a landfill. Which is a crazy thought to think. And
thanks for that.
You're welcome. And so, yeah, you've got that question of like what you actually do with the trash. So we're putting it into eco bricks with the kind of thought process of and hope of in 20 years when that wall's torn down, there will be a better way of managing that trash. And at least now it's in a manageable bullet form rather than spread out all over the beaches. But actually, one of the areas of research that we want to expand into is taking beach samples up and down the coastline of Mozambique, closer to river mouths, and seeing how the plastics within like the actual beach samples themselves increase towards the river mouths, because we do have a lot of international trash. So it would be quite interesting to work out how much is actually coming from the cities themselves in Mozambique and how much is actually coming internationally, because we have like logoed stuff washing up on the shores from like Indonesia. And we know that that's probably come all the way around the entire ocean gyre, or off a shipping vessel, but it definitely wasn't manufactured in Mozambique. So yeah, I mean, that's one area. And then we're also expanding our water column research. So basically taking samples from the water column, looking at microplastics that are floating in the water column and relating that back to our filter feeders that we have in the area. So we have whale sharks and manta rays, and then how much microplastics they're likely consuming.
You've got, I know you said at the beginning, Francesca, some of the projects you're working on, you've just said it as well about the Eco Brick project. Are there any other sort of aspects of Love the Oceans work that you want to highlight in terms of what else you're doing for marine conservation?
Yeah, definitely. Two projects actually that we've launched recently, which I will talk about because they're fresh on my mind and I love them. I love every area that we work in, obviously, and that's part of what I love about Love the Oceans, because we do so many different areas, you never get bored. We've launched our sustainable fishing project recently, which is basically, according to our research, we have a big imbalance of herbivores and carnivores in our area. We basically have almost no herbivores left. And herbivore fish are really important for maintaining reef health, because they graze on algae, which competes with corals. So if you don't have herbivores, the algae overtakes the coral dies off, and you have a big problem in terms of coral biodiversity in the area. So we think that that's largely down to fishing, and the two types of fishing in our area that's down to, according to our research, is netting and spearfishing. So we have a project that is working to eliminate net fishing and reduce spearfishing and change the target species of spearfishing in our area, and move towards kayak fishing, which according to our research is much more sustainable because it targets carnivorous fish. So those fish, things like tunas and barracudas, and they predate on the herbivore fish. So you address that imbalance through changing the type of fishing that's happening in the area. And literally, I left Mozambique last week, and I had 3 community meetings the day I left. And one of them, the last one actually, Jembo, who is the chief fisherman of the area and head of the committee of this project, he is working to get netting actually written, like a law in place to make netting illegal in the area, which is obviously a massive step, and really great to hear that the fishermen are creating their own laws and trying to outlaw unsustainable fishing in itself. The other project that I will mention, we literally just launched 3 weeks ago. It's a women's health project. So basically, it seems like a little bit rogue for a marine conservation organization to be launching a women's health project. But when you think about conservation and you think about your stakeholders in a community, you have to think about who that is. And in our area, 53% of the population are women. But there are no women involved in the marine space. And when I say marine space, I mean like fishing, diving, anything marine related at all. And there are no women involved in that. And to create a successful and efficient conservation strategy, you need all of your stakeholders to have a seat at the table. And whilst women might not be directly involved in the marine space, they are involved in like the food processing and distribution side of things as well. So basically, through many conversations with a lot of women in our area, we've worked out that basically comes back to lack of management of menstrual health. So there's very few menstrual products available in the area, allowing women to manage their periods easier and swim. So women aren't learning to swim. They're leaving school earlier, they're not finishing education, they're getting pregnant earlier because there's a lack of education around how periods and sexual health come together and reproduction cycles. And so there just there's no female representation within this space in Mozambique, or very, very little, especially in our area in Jangamo. So we've launched this women's health project to give women more access to menstrual products and education. We're partnering with different NGOs, health NGOs and government bodies on sexual health and menstrual cycle education around this topic. And then that ties in with our swimming project as well, getting more women in the water and increasing opportunities for them.
It's amazing, like that link between, like you said, you wouldn't expect a marine conservation project to be doing something around women's health, but just explaining that link makes it realize how important it is to engage them and sort of get past those barriers that are stopping women working in the oceans. Justin, I'm just going to come to you next. I know you explained your one bottle of wine takes 10 plastic bottles out of the ocean. Now, I know you worked rigorously on this approach, making sure when people buy one bottle of wine, it definitely does take 10 plastic bottles or the equivalent of out of the ocean. Do you want to talk a bit about how that works and the charity you partnered with to do that?
Yeah, so I was previously, before the Hidden Sea and this journey we're on, and with our existing partner, whether it's the Perfect World Foundation, Lonely Whale, Project Zero, I've been a part of, whether on the board or advice or giving funds. We've been a part of Ocean Health for a long period of time. So when we started to realise we needed to have a clear and quantifiable promise with our brand, the one bottle equals 10 out of the ocean, we needed a partner that was certified at the highest standard. So that partner is the ReSea project, and the auditing organisation is DNV, which is probably the largest assurance company in the world, and they've, along with ReSea project, the ocean cleanup guys who are tackling the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. The only two people that's measured up to the highest standards on the way to remove plastic from human rights all the way through to ocean health and where the plastic ends up. So they're the ones that take care that we can have that promise. It took us 5 years to find the right people and do the due diligence to get that clear and quantifiable promise. But that's the marketing part of it. We collect in kilos, and we collect for every 6 bottles, we collect 1 kilo of plastic, which is a cost to us of €8. So it's extremely high. However, that's how we collect the plastic, and then by weight, 1 kilo, there's roughly 62 water bottles, 500ml water bottles, plastic water bottles in that. So that's how we do it. The way I think on a bigger picture that we can tackle the bigger issue is that I mentioned before about only that 9% of all plastics being recycled, and we live in this philosophy that's consumable society where we think when we throw it in the recycling bin it gets recycled. The fact of the matter is it doesn't get recycled because it's too expensive to do so. And I think if we lobby government hard, that we can put a tax on new plastic, virgin plastic, that will then make used plastic valuable. And when something's valuable, guess what? The big companies will find a way to recycle it very, very quickly. So the commerce is really important. And I know Francesca touched on it before. The commerce part of ocean health is important, and that's my view how to sort it very much. And the good thing is there's only about approximately 100 companies producing 90% of the plastics. So don't tell me we can't move 100 companies to get the government to put a tax on only 100 companies to make recycled plastic more valuable.
And if we bring it back to ourselves as individuals, because there is so much that companies and businesses and governments can do to help drive forward this mission of looking after our oceans. But if we bring it back to, the title, How to Love Our Oceans, and people watching this thinking, what can I do? It would be good to sort of, in the next 10 minutes, discuss what can people do. So there's a lot of stuff that Francesca, you're doing in Mozambique, and there's loads of stuff that charities, organizations, businesses, brands are doing. But let's focus back on the individual. And Zeline, I mean, you're a volunteer, and from perhaps much of your work, you are an individual picking up plastic on the beaches. But if we talk about what the individual can do, what sort of advice or tips, or what would your lessons be from being a volunteer be passed on to people who are watching that might want to do the same?
I think coming back is the education. The education. Basically, everything what we just mentioned, the awareness, letting people know. I mean, you don't have to go to the beach and then with banners and everything. No, but it can be in small groups. It can be with your community. Talk about it. What can we do as a community? Sharing it with your kids. Having fun times at the beach with the kids, or ocean-friendly school activities. At clubs, what I mentioned as well, we as volunteers, we go into clubs. Just talking with the last club I went to was a divers club. Just people like myself, older people, just talking about current situation, how we can help. And I remember we were talking about the recycling. I don't know if they started up north and if they're continue to do that or not, where we can take our empty bottles to the supermarket. I remember that was a big discussion because I do know in Europe, just to mention in the Netherlands, they do that. You just go with your empty bottles to the supermarket and you'll get a receipt, and then that's basically your discount or on that particular groceries you're doing.
Okay.
It's those little things, little by little, that we can all do to make the change, really. And for individuals, something that can be nice as well, going to the beach with the kids, and then maybe if you go this week, see how it is, take a picture and just write down what you see, and then go the following week, maybe same time, and then note down all the changes. Those changes, if you can record that and then send it to any conservation group, organization. We from Marine Conservation Society, we do take those records. We do take those, and if you can see the difference in, just to mention, now there is a seagrass activity going as well, where they do record. If you see changes like that, if we can send those to the people, for example, from Marine Conservation, they will look into that. They will record that. Kids will see it as an activity to help out. I think we can make a difference. And to go back to your previous question, I really wanted to mention this, and some people will not understand. But plastic travels, that's it. Plastic travels. And the reason I'm saying that quite loud is I remember one beach clean that I was doing. It was during the pandemic in the Caribbean. So on our island, we found a menu card, and it wasn't from our island. It was literally a menu card from another island. And everyone was, I mean, you're in shock, but then again, it's something, it was expected, but you just don't want to see it. I'm just being honest. You don't want to see it. And that's just a reminder that plastic travels. So it was from one island to another, a menu card. So I guess it's a restaurant close to the ocean, and it just ended up there. So we picked it up. What can you do from there? It's just bringing the awareness and then letting people know what's going on.
It's quite powerful way to visualize that plastic trampoline, what you just said about the
exactly, yes, and the full menu card. So it wasn't even in pieces, it was just the full menu card.
And Francesca, when it comes to individuals, obviously there's a lot of work that you do in Mozambique with a lot of people in the communities, but when it comes down to people thinking about what they can do, what would you say to them?
To be honest, like I swing between this, right? So like individual action is really important, and like we do need to make those changes on a day-to-day basis. But like as Justin said, like the large environmental issues that we're facing, a lot of massive corporations are responsible for the majority of it. So whilst individual action is admirable, and we do need to like make those daily changes and, you know, like switch off the lights, I actually find it's like a massive distraction tactic that the government employs, placing consumer blame, when it's like the government that needs to be changing those laws and taxing those corporations and changing everything, the way that the entire economy is structured in terms of like penalizing smaller organizations and rewarding like massive corporations that are making such massive environmental damage. So in terms of like individual action, how that relates to like those big corporations, that can look like campaigns. And I think like organizations like Marine Conservation Society and like Surfers Against Sewage and Sea Legacy, Greenpeace, Sea Shepherd, like these big organizations have big campaigns, and they're applying pressure to the government to stop this, like all these environmental atrocities. And I think like getting involved in those campaigns, that can literally be as simple as Googling it and putting your name to that petition, and every voice counts. And at this point, we need to be applying pressure to those large organizations and showing that people do care, and we do care. And we do need to make like those individual changes, and, you know, volunteer when you can, and like help out as much as you can, and think about your habits at home and the trash that you're creating in your lifetime, and the pollution that you're creating, and the food that you're eating, and where that's coming from, and those kind of things as well. That's very important, because consumers do have power. But when it comes down to like the major environmental problems that we're facing in this age right now, that is large corporations by and large that are responsible for that. And we need to be asking them to look more closely at their footprint.
Francesca, really, really well articulated. It is so, the recycling myth, right, it's been sold by governments. This whole overfishing, the government will put out campaigns of what the most sustainable fish is. Rule number one, governments, stop subsidizing fishing so we have overfishing. And even on the plastic, the governments who are saying, yes, we're going to reduce plastic, recycle, all that myth, all that propaganda, put the pressure back on us. Well, they're subsidizing plastic plants in parts of America to come into their state. So it's a lie. They're just lying straight to us. That's why I go back to the ability and the responsibility. And, I don't want people to choose our product, whether we're carbon neutral or organic vineyards or fully sustainable winery, or what we do with our profits. I just want to give them a sustainable choice compared to the direct competition, same quality, same price point. And I think if governments aren't going to change, and we support a lot of that, Surfers Against Sewage, Sea Shepherd, our company, the Hidden Sea, supports those organisations with product in kind or joining different activities. Or Surf Rider, there's another great organisation we have a global alliance with. We support those guys because that noise is bigger than, and I believe it's honourable, than stop using plastic water bottles, or drinking Coke out of, that's not going to help, like Francesca said. So again, Francesca, really well articulated. Thank you for that.
It can be overwhelming. Like I said earlier, it can be overwhelming thinking about how much needs to be done. But I do think, what you said, Zerlene, about education, Francesca, supporting those campaigns, signing the petitions, and just being more aware of the issue and aware of what needs to be done, whether that's you doing your small bit or being aware that there's a lot of bigger organizations that need to do that bit as well. We've got 10 minutes left, so I'm just going to, and we've had quite a few questions, so I'm just going to go through some of them. So Zelly, maybe this might be one that you could answer. So someone has said, do you think people living in cities are less concerned about ocean pollution? And if so, how can they be educated? So I know you said sometimes there is that disconnect between the ocean and people living their lives. But what do you think about education? Do you think it's about, like you said, talking about it more?
Definitely talking about it more. And you cannot, just to be very honest, some people never ever have seen the ocean, go to the beach. And for us, for myself, I find that in the beginning, it was sort of funny because I couldn't understand. I really couldn't understand. How do you mean you've never seen the ocean? Like, you've never seen the ocean. But coming from an island, it's there within 10 minutes. And living in a big city, it's different. So now I get it. So then I think, bring the awareness, let them understand what the ocean means to all of us. And if they have a chance to visit the ocean, then they will understand what it is all about. So again, awareness, we in schools, at the clubs, trying to show pictures, the ocean festivals, being there, and letting them really understand what it is. Because again, if sometimes people need to see something, feel something, and then from within, then they will change. It's not that you can tell them, okay, the ocean is very important to us people, it's very important, but if they don't have the connection, and they will not understand. So again, it's the awareness. Yeah, definitely the awareness.
Another question that someone's asked, and maybe Francesca, as a charity, you might be able to answer this, is have you acknowledged an increase in volunteering, or have you seen an increase or in sort of interest in volunteering when it comes to conservation work?
I think obviously the pandemic's like heavily affected volunteering for charities, unfortunately. So like in practical terms, like physically volunteering, I think that that's been a really limiting factor in the last 2 years. That said, I think that people are waking up, and like I've done a lot of talks myself, calling for volunteers, not just from the marine space. I think a lot of people think, oh, well, you know, I'm not a biologist. Like, what could I possibly bring to the team? And we're at the point with the planet that we need everyone caring about it. And it doesn't matter what your background is. Everyone has their own skill set, whether that's like an accountant, a lawyer, like social media expert, like all these skills are really needed within the marine space, and we need everyone to be caring more. So if you're interested in like getting involved in conservation work, then I would recommend like having a think about what your skill set is, what you want to get out of it, but what you can bring to the team as well, and contacting whatever NGO or company you think you admire and offering your help, because there is a massive lack of it. Like the conservation organizations around the globe are like critically underfunded, and that's pretty much why we're in the predicament we're in. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend reaching out and getting involved as much as you can. I guess I'm like putting out a call for volunteers for different organizations. I know that Marine Conservation Society do like so many beach cleans all around the UK. And they're always looking for volunteers. So definitely like reach out to different organizations and get involved.
I wanted to add as well to Francesca. I think people need to do it from the heart as well, in terms of a lot of people ask me, okay, do you get paid? I'm like, no, I'm not getting paid. But that's the nice about it. Just do it because it's something you really want to do. It's something that for all of us, we need more volunteers, definitely. And it just needs to be something that you do because you want to do it.
Yeah.
And the world needs more people like you, Zelene.
No, really, because immediately they think, but you don't get paid. No, we don't get paid. But that's the reason that it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter. You know, so I think that mindset needs to change, and we'll get more people. We'll get more people, and I need to mention it's the young ones that are coming and want to change.
Yeah.
And hopefully they can then change their parents. It's the young ones.
Yeah, having those conversations, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Justin, this might be a question for you. Someone has asked, which country or government do you think is the most is doing the most for marine preservation so far, and is there anything we can learn from it? So are there any countries that you think are doing great things and are quite admirable in terms of their work?
So just to confuse everybody, being an Aussie, owning an Aussie wine brand, I live in Copenhagen. So Zelene was touching on before about the recycling in the Netherlands. But in Scandinavia, and I'm particularly focused on Denmark, I think they're doing a great job. The government released just a few weeks back that 94% of all plastic produced for soft drinks and water bottles had been returned and recycled, and it's because they give such a high return on the value of the bottle. And yes, you take it to the supermarket and you get a voucher. And I think it's 20 kroners for a bottle of 500 ml, a bottle of Coke, which is about 20 cents. It's high, and the taxes are high on doing it. And then also the way they burn their trash here, that nothing goes into landfill, and it's clean emissions. We've got a plant here which now Germany relies on part of it because it's so big. It's too big for the Danish population or the Scandinavian population. So the way they're getting rid of their trash is world leading as well. And it's probably commonly known that the cycling culture, the environmental culture in Scandinavia is probably leading the world, or one of the leaders. However, on the flip side, when I talk to people about ocean plastic, like, yeah, we recycle. Yeah, the bottles are getting recycled. All the other containers aren't. And there's great organisations here trying to raise awareness of that. But if I had to give you one example, I would say Denmark as a country is certainly leading the way on how to do that. So yeah.
It's great. Not confusing people, but you're in Copenhagen. I have heard that Scandinavia are some of the happiest countries in the world, and that they do have great environmental initiatives. And like you said about cycling, that's a big part of that. But
there's more bikes. There's more bikes registered on the roads than cars. The Danes always say that they're happy, and Copenhagen is meant to be one of the most livable cities in the world. I'm just thinking the discounted 6 to 8 months of the year where the weather's not as good, but in the summertime, it is certainly, in my view, the best city in the world. It's fantastic to live. It's got a great atmosphere, and the Danes are very sustainable in everything they do, and that's the buzzword. It's not so much organic. We've got to be more sustainable, and aware, as Zelene clearly pointed out, being aware is important, but awareness with no action is the definition of insanity. So we need to act on that awareness.
Definitely. And we have a couple of minutes left, so I'm just going to zip around all of you and say, for anyone that wants to know more about your charity, your organisation, the work you do, where can they go to find out more and to get involved? So, Francesca, I'll come to you first.
They can visit our website, www.lovetheoceans.org. We have a Adopt a Whale Shark initiative where you can adopt a whale shark, which is a cool Christmas present. You can also volunteer and get involved and come out to Mozambique and help with our work there. You can donate, you can fundraise, you can attend one of our talks. There's lots of different ways of getting involved. Also check out our social media. Our largest platform is Instagram. So that will keep you up to date on a day-to-day basis of what we're doing.
Amazing. Thank you. And Justin. Oh.
Yeah, so no, I was just going to launch in. So the hiddensea.com, and obviously every time someone purchases a bottle of our wine, there's a QR code on that, and everything's tracked. It's blockchain technology from when the plastic's collected to what happens when it goes into recycling or into different other means, like whether biofuels. So the hiddensea.com, and then on our website you can find everything, as I said, even if you buy a bottle or not, out where we're collecting plastic around the world.
Lovely. Thank you. And Zeline, what about you? Where can people go if they want to find out more about you and perhaps the volunteering you do as well?
Yes, so for marine conservation, they can go to mcsuk.org, and myself, onada.com. So that's the website, otherwise my Instagram. Yes, so I started with a sustainable brand, but then I will add my volunteer in there as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. Thank you all for joining this panel talk and discussing, what needs to be done. I think educating, awareness, putting pressure on the people that need to do things, but also knowing that we can all do our bit is important. If you want to find out more about us, we're at smileymovement.org, and we run these Smiley events bi-monthly. So there's always lots you can get involved in. But other than that, thank you very much. And thank you all for watching.
Thank you, Amy.